Before I begin, I just want to point out a couple things about the video that this is. This is not necessarily a full review of this headset or a rant per se about Meta or their hardware. I do enjoy a bit of Meta's ability to create headsets. The Quest 3, for example, has incredible pass-through. Meta has the best pancake lenses in the business. That's not the point of this. I'm not trying to say never buy a Meta device. I'm simply going to point out issues with the Meta device here, the Quest Pro. I've been seeing a couple things recently just because the price has dropped on the headset a significant amount on like eBay for reselling. I've seen a lot about people saying that it is a good headset for the price, or even worse, how it is a amazing headset for the price. And I mostly disagree in a couple different areas, and I just wanted to point out the flaws that I've experienced with this device over the past year and a half of owning it. Just for background, I did purchase it the day after it released. I went to a Best Buy about 2 weeks prior, a week prior, when they were showing off the headset in the 20-minute controlled demo. And I did find the demo enjoyable. I was very impressed by the pancake lenses, the resolution on the headset, and a couple just other things about the device. And especially in about 20 minutes, it is actually a comfortable headset if you only have it on for about 20 to 30 minutes. There's just a lot of information that gets lost if you've only been using the headset for a little bit of time. So I'm just going to go right off the bat and not just list, but explain the experience that I've had with the Quest Pro. Alright, so this guy right here. This is mine. I've had it, like I said, for about a year and a half. There's going to be a lot of things I'm going to say here that you've probably heard before. I'm just going to go over the things that I've experienced specifically. If it's something that you have heard before, or something that's been said many times, I am going to just kind of glaze over it as just like here's a notable mention. Like the first one, the headset is horribly uncomfortable to wear when it's out of the box. It took me a very long time to get the headset where I needed it to be comfort-wise, especially before any third-party solutions came out. The globular cluster is the way to go. It is by far the most comfortable mod that you can do to it, just snaps right on. But out of the box, it is a horrific experience. The hard strap allows for absolutely no flex, as well as the facial interfaces were way too small, and it wouldn't cup the back of your head or your forehead in any meaningful way. But like I said, that one's been beaten to death. It is possible to mod it into a more comfortable way. Globular cluster kit costs $40. But we're going to do a fun little count here. All the things that you might need to do for this headset to make it usable in some senses. The light blockers. I don't have mine anymore, and it's for good reason. So when this device came out, it shipped with a set of light blockers that only blocked light from here and here. It would leave the bottom absolutely empty, ton of light bleed. Now, again, that's been beaten to a dead horse. What hasn't been beaten to a dead horse as much is just the ability it has to make your skin irritated. I try to clean my things as much as possible, and no matter what, the silicone material just kind of leaves marks and it will irritate my skin. I don't think I have super sensitive skin. I feel like I'm average, but that is something of a per person thing, I'm sure. But if you do want any sort of immersive factor, you need something like this. This is the official one. I bought it when it first came out, just because I realized, wow, I hate the actual light blockers they have, and like they do, they snap right in. And again, it does irritate the skin, just like the previous one. I did buy another thing a while ago that was a sort of slip-on that would go around the lenses that blocked specifically. It was a little uncomfortable, it was cutting into my face, but you can purchase that. But if we want to go strictly on the easiest to get way to light block, $50. So we're already at, for a good, comfortable, immersive factor, we are at a $90 extra purchase on top of your $1,000 VR headset. Speaking of price, if you purchase it new now, you're buying it for $1,000. This is more of an issue I had with Meta as somebody who bought the headset when it came out. I purchased it for $1,500, and I kept it for a while because I was enjoying aspects of the device. Like I said, these lenses are phenomenal. And also, as a side note, this headset isn't bad for development with the open design here. As a person who is constantly in and out of Unity, I can put the headset on and I can tilt it up or down whenever I need to see my computer. It's useful in that sense as well, and also I don't need to find a sweet spot. And also, it does have full IPD range. So another couple things, temperature of the device. There is not a lot of ventilation, like there is ventilation around the side here. Doesn't really matter, this thing will get hot, specifically right up here. It gets very, very warm while in use. This next bit is really hard for me to show. I'm actually not sure if I will be able to. I will try to in the edit. But so there's actually some hairline fractures on the head strap itself. Nothing as bad as obviously as the Quest 2 Elite strap. Again, they're really hard to kind of show off, but right around where the chunk of the audio solution ends, there is just 2 cracks, just from flex over time. I'm not gonna say it's anything major for the abilities of the head strap, but it is something to note. This thing does have just hairline fractures on it. It has spots where it is weaker than other spots. Another thing on the strap that's actually starting to go for me is this wheel right here. So the actual adjustment wheel, I've had it be a little squeaky. Right now it's actually being quite kind of nice to me. I've had it squeaky, I've had it stuck, and it will just be very difficult to move. And of course, something that is happening with every single device that has ever been released is stick drift. Now, I'm going to talk more about the controllers later. There is a lot of stupid things about these controllers that have happened. There's a lot of not as stupid things that have happened. One of the issues that I've been running into is stick drift. Right now it's only on my right controller, but it will pop up and it will start to drift. Now, this is an issue on every single Quest headset so far, so I'm not too surprised by it. But again, it is in mind, especially if you're thinking of buying these controllers. They are $300 controllers by themselves. So I will be talking about these more later. So that first bit was just me talking about the physical build quality of the headset. I'd say that's probably the most boring part of this. But so now we're going to go into software and operating system issues, because there is a lot. From the best of my understanding, Meta has already pretty much been discontinuing specific things to support this device. In ways that are really, really annoying. But so, just for starters, the headset likes to crash. It just likes to turn itself off. It likes to just quit out of apps. Sometimes it will cite heating issues. Sometimes it won't. Sometimes things will just close. Sometimes the headset will actually just shut off. One of the big ones that have happened to me a lot is one of the straight up crashes on the headset, where it will just freeze for a second and then it will just completely crash. I can only describe the visuals in the headset while it's doing this as TV static. It's very hard to capture. I will try to recreate it in the edit, but it will just shut itself off. And sometimes it's due to heating. Sometimes I can't figure out why it's happening whatsoever. These things just kind of happen on the headset from time to time. Sometimes the operating system or whatever is doing it will just refuse to turn on the pass-through, or it will just turn off the pass-through. It will just completely disable pass-through. It's not something I've heard of much on the Quest 3. I personally don't own a Quest 3 at this time, as I haven't found a need to buy another headset from Meta. The pass-through will just turn off. And of course, there's always the known problem of the pass-through on this device being way worse than the Quest 3, and just a lot of really dumb choices that they made, like removing the depth sensor from this general area. But the pass-through is obviously crap. But sometimes it just turns itself off. I have no clue why. This is actually the biggest problem that I've found with the headset's operating system. And it's actually more specifically the controllers themselves. So a lot of people have been reporting this, and it's definitely happening, that the support for these is getting worse and worse as the days go by. They've not put out any major firmware updates, and I've actually heard some people have firmware updates brick these controllers. But that's not the main issue here. The main issue is the way they are tracked. So Meta did this weird thing where they put an entire computer inside each controller and put the 3 cameras on it for self-track controllers. And they work most of the time. They will always track themselves correctly. Now, what they will do also is drift. They don't always know where the headset is, and sometimes they will just snap away. If you are considering playing any sort of competitive game like Onward or Pavlov or any sort of shooter where you will be standing like this, sometimes this controller will just not know where it is. Or worse, this controller will just move around. So what happens a lot is the controllers will just offset themselves. What will happen is I'll have my hands like this, but the controller will think it's maybe like this. And it will happen randomly. It will just jump back and forth. It will fly around. It will just completely disconnect itself from where it is. And you will be sitting there trying your best to aim, and you will have a perfect shot lined up. I do play a lot of Onward. You'll have a perfect shot lined up, and suddenly this will happen. And then you're done. And then you have to sit there and wait and ask for your controller to come back, or you restart it. And it's actually pretty entertaining about this controller drift issue. I was up at MIT for a hackathon called Reality Hack, and Meta was actually one of the groups that was there. And I was talking to one of the Meta employees, and he pretty much told me while I was there, he goes, "Oh, we recently fixed this controller drift problem." That was about 4 months ago. There's been several firmware updates since then on the headset, not many from the controllers. And I can tell you with pretty good confidence this controller drift thing happens quite often. It happened to me last night. So it's something to bear in mind if you play anything competitive, or Beat Saber or Onward, or any game that requires controllers to be in a good spot when you need them to be. They might just move, and it could mess with you. It is an annoying feature of the controllers. And there's many other issues with the controllers too. For example, this is less of an issue because nobody ever got to use it. They do have a touchpad built in, and honestly, it would have been a really cool feature to have, except there's no way to enable it in the operating system. These touchpads are completely useless inside the controller. It's just added weight and probably added price just a little bit. It's not really that much of an issue because nobody ever used it, because it just never worked. It was never enabled, but it is there. Just you can't use it. Another couple things, the controllers will randomly just shut themselves off. I've had this a million times now. Where I will be using it. Specifically, I've had it a lot over PC Link, but it has happened in games where the controllers will just disconnect. Either disconnect tracking or just turn themselves off and require a restart. It will just happen where the controllers just turn off. I have no answer for this. I have no clue why. They just don't. Sometimes the controllers do overheat as well, and this is another way they would turn off, but it will normally tell you when your controllers are overheating. So when I'm talking about the controllers just turning off, that's more when there's no warning, there's no overheat. They just disconnect. And that's another thing to understand with the device if you're going to use it in any form of competitive gameplay action or game or software where you use your hands a lot. But on top of the controllers randomly turning off, both for high heat or not, there's always sometimes some low light issues that are specific to the controllers. Because they are using their own cameras, they obviously see the world and they need to use that vision to track. The headset does the same thing with slam tracking. I've had times where my controllers or one or the other controller tells me that it's in a low light situation while the headset or the other controller are completely fine. So I know there's no lighting issues in my room. I normally play pretty bright. So just noticing these problems where it just says low light is a bit odd when I know the lighting is typically fine. Like I said, these things haven't really gotten a proper firmware update in a number of months now, and it just feels like Meta is losing support for them. I'm going to do a quick fire round on these things that don't really need mention that aggressively. There's just a really weird material that's covering the entire controller that looks like plastic peeling off. These wrist straps are absolutely terrible. They do not stay tight. Any sort of force will just untighten them. Even gravity will sometimes untighten them. Ergonomically, they're comfortable though, so I guess they have that going for them. So here's another issue that I've been recently finding on the headset as well. On the headset, there is this new thing that popped up recently, and I feel like it is important to talk about because not many people have talked about it, mostly because I feel like we're losing Quest Pro users by the day. So, in the most recent firmware update, I don't remember what it is off the top of my head, I think it's V65 or V64, it's one of the two. In the most recent firmware update, a new bug was introduced to this headset specifically, where the audio will just die. It will just suddenly, you'll start hearing it start to buzz, and then every sound coming out of it will sound like the crispiest noise you've ever heard. I will try to recreate it in the edit. No clue if I'm going to get it. So, it'll happen in any app. I've had it over in Steam Link, I've had it over Virtual Desktop, I've had it in Onward on the headset, I've had it in several different areas. It won't record inside the headset, inside the operating system, so I know it's not app-based. It is just the actual headset just frying its audio. As well as for a while there, it was hard to figure out how to get it to stop doing that. I tried several things. I turned the volume all the way down, back up again. I would power cycle the headset fully. Normally power cycling the headset fully did fix it, as well as if you just turn off the headset and turn it back on, like rest mode. Sometimes that fixes it, sometimes it doesn't. But it's honestly a problem that shouldn't be happening, but it is happening. Power cycling, again, will always fix it. Turning off and on the headset in sleep mode will sometimes fix it. And it's just really obnoxious how something like that is able to happen inside a headset. I've not heard this about the Quest 2 or the Quest 3. The closest thing I can recall to it is actually a bug from the Rift S, but it was the opposite. Your microphone would do that to other people. It was the same. It was roughly the same sound. So it is just another thing to be wary about. This thing, whenever it gets a firmware update, it kind of just sends another bug in. Another thing that I would like to mention as well in the operating system, sometimes the controllers just won't be there at all when you're in your menus, or the menu itself won't show up. I do not know if the menu itself not showing up might be a full, well-rounded Quest issue. That might just be something on all headsets. But I know for sure the controllers just not appearing might be a Quest Pro issue, where you will just be in your menu and you can't do anything, so you just have to power cycle the headset. Here's another thing that's probably more specific to me than it is to other people. Over the last year and a half now, I've had moments with this headset where it has just corrupted itself. Not fully, but there have just been app issues that have been corrupted. Again, this could just be a Quest issue. For me, I've actually had to completely wipe this headset a couple times now. Again, that could just be how I use it. I do use this thing primarily for development, so sometimes an app could just break. I don't know. Now on to what I would probably consider to be more of the main kickers, or the reasons people would buy this headset. Specifically, the face and eye tracking. A lot of people like myself do play a lot of VR chat, and having face and eye tracking in VR chat is just another step to both immerse yourself and immerse the other people around you, and it is a really cool feature to have. And I will admit, I have used this for face and eye tracking in VR chat. It's not the exact experience you may want it to be. So first of all, if you don't have a PC and that's how you play VR chat on standalone, the face and eye tracking doesn't work in standalone. I personally don't see that as a big issue, but it is, again, a thing to note. But on PC, it is very interesting. So the modules for face and eye tracking are community made, so those are not a problem. However, the software to get your face and eye tracking to the PC isn't exactly community made. Virtual Desktop does it, that is community made. Virtual Desktop is relatively a good use case for face and eye tracking, or for just connecting your headset to PC. You do get a lot of open options. As well as there is Steam Link, and there is Oculus Link, or AirLink now. All of those can be used to get the data to the PC. I do not recommend using AirLink. AirLink or Overwire have their own problems that I'll explain more a little bit later. I use Steam Link because Steam Link has foveated encoding. If you don't know what foveated encoding is, it's just using the position of your eye to give a higher quality stream bitrate to wherever you're looking in comparison to the areas around you. It just saves you on a little bit of bandwidth. I don't have the best router, so I tend to use that. It is mostly alright. But when you are using face and eye tracking, you do have to set it up yourself, which again, isn't a problem. But there are some problems with the face and eye tracking that are specific to this headset that I do want to note. First, the lenses do get hotter when you are using face and eye tracking. Lenses in the headset already get pretty warm by themselves just because of the pancake lenses. If you don't know, pancake lenses take a lot of percentage of the light going through them and kind of just get rid of it. So the displays have to be really bright in order to show a good image through a pancake lens. Over time, I've found balancing this around 50 to 75% brightness is the optimal way to get good brightness through this headset without making it too warm. However, if you turn on face and eye tracking, specifically the eye tracking, those lenses do get hotter just because of the IR blasters going through them. Now, how hot is kind of a specific thing. Don't have a number, obviously, but I will say it has multiple occasions dried out my eyes a bit. I've just had to have a little bit of eye. I've had a little bit of eye irritation where I've had to close my eyes, try to re-water them. That's not the worst part. So with the face tracking specifically, so this strip right here is where it houses all the electronics for the face tracking for the lower face. It gets hot, And by it gets hot, I don't mean it gets lukewarm where it's noticeable. I mean it gets hot to the point where it actually hurts my nose. For background on how to wear the Quest Pro is an interesting device when you try to put it on your head. Typically what you would do is not actually keep it completely flat to your head like this, but it typically gets angled down just a little bit. It saves you a field of view, as well as it helps with the back of the head comfort, just because it's able to cup a little bit more of your head without hurting the back of my neck. This has been mostly how most people wear it, is they just kind of angle it down a little bit. Now, for about an hour and a half while using, this is okay, especially when the face and eye tracking is on. But when it's actually on, the module down here gets really hot, like I said, and it will put pressure on your nose, and it will actually heat up this bridge of your nose. I've had it leave red marks. It will actually start to hurt after a certain amount of time. I'm not just being over dramatic about it either. If you talk to anybody who I've used VRChat with while I use this headset, there is moments where I'll start to like jump up a little bit because I'll realize that it's starting to hurt my nose, and then I'll have to readjust the headset or like give it breathing room just so I don't burn the bridge of my nose in any shape or form. So it is what I like to consider a really bad thing. Now, this will always be a user-specific issue just because everybody's nose shape is different and where the headset rests on their face is different. I'd like to say I have a average size nose, maybe a little bit bigger than average. So it is more or less up to your face shape to see if you will get any full burn area or full coverage of your nose when you are on this piece right here. But yes, it does burn your nose. I will say this flat. It will irritate your nose, and it will leave a sensation of over being heated on your nose. And another thing while face and eye tracking is on, the battery life dies. You will be lucky to get maybe an hour 15 out of it. Now, this is an issue if you are able to get a good external battery. I do not have a good external battery. I have just not had a desire to purchase one. With the battery life, it is only about an hour 15 when the face and eye tracking is on. And what's worse is that it won't actually be able to charge fully while it is in use. I've had to, specifically when I use PCVR, is I need my cable on standby, the actual cable that came with the headset, in order to keep it charged. And you need to balance it around 50% brightness, and you'll maybe get 1% or 2 every so often, or it will hover around the percentage it's currently at. So when you turn these things on, the battery dies. And if you're like me, and if you're using this for face and eye tracking in VRChat, you like to spend a lot of time on the app. You like to spend a couple of hours at least playing the game. And while that is possible, you will need your cable on standby, or you will need to have several batteries on standby, because it will eat up those batteries while you're trying to do it. And you will be constantly trying to balance plugging in, unplugging. Now, this would also be well and good if you were okay with using PC Link. However, PC Link has its own issue. When you're using it, the standard link cable that Meta sells will not charge the headset. I frankly don't know why they still sell this cable. This cable that they have is useless. It was built for the Quest 1, and they are selling it with the Quest 2 and the Quest 3 as like this is the link cable you need. It will not keep the Quest Pro or the Quest 3 charged whatsoever when you use that over link, so just don't purchase that. Obviously there's way better third-party ones, but the one you're going to need for the Quest Pro, especially with face and eye tracking, is this one right here. This is the high-powered QJack cable, and it allows for you to plug into the wall as well as your computer. Not the standard QJack cable, the high-powered one. This is the only one that will actively charge the headset while it is plugged in. However, I don't recommend using PC Link anymore, just because Meta has been slowly killing that piece of software as a physical link. So bear in mind, PC Link is not really the way you'd want to go. You're still going to get compression anyways, so if you're going to go all out and buy a Quest, you might as well just ditch the wire and do things wireless. But if you do want to purchase a link cable for it and be plugged in and not have to worry too much about battery while you're playing, this is another $30. On top of the head strap, on top of the facial interface, and this cable, you're looking at $130 extra. Now, again, you don't need this, but I do recommend getting a router, so that could also be $50 extra, just having a separate router. I don't do that. but I don't use PC Link enough on this. I don't use AirLink enough or any wireless connection. I typically use a PC headset when I'm playing PC games. So that's more a me thing. Do keep that in mind. It will die while you are using it, and you will be fighting with the battery the entire time. But overall, I know that was just a lot of information about this headset, but I just wanted to put into words the issues that I've had with this device over the last year and a half. There is some people saying that it is a decent headset if you can buy it used, and frankly, I cannot recommend you buying this headset used. For any of the issues that I realized, you're going to purchase a Quest device. You can either purchase this for $500 or you can buy a Quest 3 for $500. And there is no other reason to purchase this headset except for the face and eye tracking over a Quest 3. So it gets to the point where there's no good reason for you to do it unless if you really, really, really need that face and eye tracking. And like I said, with the overheating issues and the fact that it has left me irritated from heat just means I can't even recommend this thing for face and eye tracking. Buy a Quest 3 if you want a newer Quest. Don't go out of your way to buy a used device that frankly is not a good headset. And also, Meta probably won't be supporting that much longer anyways, with the lack of firmware updates on the controllers, and I'm sure they're going to start doing less and less firmware specific for this device on the headset, and with the new partnership with Lenovo, where they are creating a new workplace spatial computing headset. This device is not something that you want to purchase for any particular reason.